This video is brought to you by IXL, used by millions of students worldwide to get ahead in math, English, and more.
Today, we'll be learning about the law of cosines. The law of cosines is one of the many ways we can find missing side lengths and angles in a triangle. Using the law of cosines, we can find a missing side given the other two sides and any angle. Or we can find the missing angle given all three sides. Now, look at how we've labeled our triangle. Notice that if you look directly across from any angle of the triangle labeled with a capital letter, you'll find the matching lowercase letter representing a side length. This labeling pattern comes in handy when working with the law of cosines. The law of cosines can be shown using any of these equations. For example, we can use the first equation to find angle A, or any side, but it's easiest to find side A using this equation because a squared is isolated on the left-hand side of the equation. We could change up the equation slightly to find angle B, or more easily find side B. And if we're looking for angle C, we'd write our equation like this, which would also make finding side C a bit simpler. Notice that if we're trying to find an angle, it will be inside the cosine function. Let's use the law of cosines in some example problems. Here, we have a triangle where we know two side lengths and the measure of the angle formed by those side lengths. We want to find the length of side T. This is one of those cases where we can use the law of cosines, so let's set up a formula to solve for T. Since we're looking for T, our formula should be t squared equals r squared plus s squared minus 2 times r times s times the cosine of angle t. Now, substituting the side lengths r and s and the angle measure of t, we get that t squared equals 16 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times 16 times 11 times the cosine of 117 degrees. Great. Now we can simplify. So t squared equals 256 plus 121 minus 352 times the cosine of 117 degrees. From here, we can use our calculators to simplify the expression. We find that t squared equals about 536.80465. To solve for t, we'll take the square root of both sides to get that t is about 23.16904. Rounding to the nearest tenth, t measures approximately 23.2 units. Nice work. Let's do one more that's a little different. This time, we are given all three sides of a triangle, and we want to try to find the measure of angle h. We can definitely use the law of cosines here, but how should we set up our equation? Well, since we're looking for angle h, we should have h squared on the left side of our equation, and the measure of angle h inside the cosine function. So h squared equals j squared plus k squared minus 2 times j times k times the cosine of angle h. Now, let's substitute in the side lengths h, j, and k to get 27 squared equals 20 squared plus 23 squared minus 2 times 20 times 23 times the cosine of angle h. Simplifying gives us 729 equals 929 minus 920 times the cosine of angle h. To isolate angle h, we should subtract 929 from both sides to get negative 200 equals negative 920 times the cosine of angle h. Then, we'll divide by negative 920 on both sides. Now, in order to get h alone, we'll have to do the opposite of cosine, which means we'll take the inverse cosine of our fraction. We'll use our calculator for that, so the measure of angle h is about 77.444 degrees. Rounding to the nearest tenth, we find that angle h is approximately 77.4 degrees. Phew, that was a lot of work. Excellent job working through these equations. Now get out there and try some more of these on your own. You've got this.
Head over to IXL.com to check out this video and thousands more in math and language arts.